Hey crafters, welcome back to my channel Because I'm Crafty. My name's Katelyn and today I have another DIY to show you guys. I was making this for a Christmas gift and before I started I thought I might as well film it because it's a fairly easy DIY and I think if you can find some nice fabric it would make a really great gift, and they're totally in style and in fashion right now, so why not? Adding a little bit of detail to it, but you can make this super simply if you want to, or you can add some little details like I am. But basically what I'm going to show you guys how to make is like one of those shawl scarves that it's just like a long rectangle with basically a slit up the middle that goes around your neck and then it hangs down. I have one in my just kind of wardrobe, and so I'm kind of basing it off of that but making it a little bit different so you guys have some other options and measurements to go by. So I'm going to cut 1.5 meters out of this fabric. It's like a woolen wool, a felted wool I guess you could say, but it's not. It's poly and rayon. I was looking at Fabricland for something like this, like a nice coating, but a lot of them had wool and I want it to be washable. So this one actually had quite a bit of rayon in it, so I thought it was good to go with the polyester, and I washed it and it came out really well, so that's good. Anyways, so this is just a nice coating from Fabricland. I believe it's 60 wide, but I'm going to cut it a little bit thinner because I'm going to add a belted option to it, and if you have it too wide it's going to come too far down the sleeves, and then when you belt it there's not enough like room for your arms to move. So if you have it a little bit shorter on your arm, then it's easier to belt. So like I said, I'm going to cut 1.5 meters with the full width just to start, and then whatever I cut off I'm going to use to make the belt that can be added as an option. Now I'm going to add some corded piping. So this is a pre-made trim at Fabricland. It's got a purple cord. Ooh. Hello. Stop focusing on my face. Here, I'll come closer so you can see. So I got this purple cording and it's been stitched on to this like flat trim backing, and so I'm going to sew that on like a trim to the edge. I'm going to sew this around the bottom front and around the neck, and then the bottom of the back. I'm going to forego the sides just because I think I'm going to like that look a little bit better than having it around the entire thing. The person I'm gifting this to really loves purple, so that's why I chose the purple cording, and I couldn't find a nice purple coating. So I chose black because then it can kind of go with everything, and then it just has a hint of purple instead. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, and I'll just fast forward it so you don't have to watch every single step, and then I'll show you the width that I cut it to and the steps after that. Okay, so now that I've got my 1.5 meters of my length cut, I'm going to cut part of the side off because I don't think I want it to be 60 wide altogether, because yeah, it's 60 wide and that's going to come down really far on your arms, and it won't allow the belting feature that I want. So I'm going to cut it so that it is just over 40 wide. So I think I'm going to cut it at 21 when the fabric's folded, so that'll make it 42, and then I'll have my seam allowance to finish off the edges, and then I will use this excess that I've cut off to sew it together and make the belt. piece that I just cut off, I'm going to end up sewing one end together and then sewing it in half. And I think instead of bagging it out, since it's so thick, I'm just going to fold the edges in on itself and then top stitch it closed and sew all the way around it. So that I'm going to do after, but that's for the belt. Now that I've got the width of my shawl scarf, I'm going to find the center on the fold of the fabric and I'm going to cut up halfway. And that's going to become the slit that comes up the front, around the neck, and back down the other side. I'm just going to put a pin right in the center. Make sure everything's nice and smooth. And then I'm going to cut up that one fold. So since I don't want to have such a distinct point at the neckline, I'm actually going to use my ruler and cut in a 1/2 inch and just curve this neck point a little bit. That way it's a little bit easier to put on my piping. This fabric won't fray because it's like a felted fabric, so I could potentially just leave it, but since it is a gift, I don't really want to give it away like that. So you could serge the edges really nicely or just turn them in and top stitch them down. But like I said, I am going to be adding the piping, and having a direct point here is going to be a little bit tricky. So I'm just going to round that out a bit to make it a little bit easier. So as you can see, right here, hopefully you can see it, there you go, against my white wall. I just cut that 1/2 inch off of this edge, stopped kind of right here, and then made that curve to where my first cut line was. So the neck just has a little bit more of a curved shape than a directly pointed shape. So it'll be a little bit easier to add my piping onto that. So the first thing I want to do is add my piping to the areas that I want, and then I'm going to hem the outer edge. I'm just going to serge it, fold it under and top stitch it down. That way I can catch the edges of the piping in the front and back corners. So like I said, I'm going to add the piping to the front and around the neck, back down, and the front again, and then along the back side. And I'll just put it on so you guys can kind of see what I mean. So this is the big rectangle we had with the slit down the middle. So it's like this, and then I can add a little belt feature to the sides, like so. And then the back's a little bit longer, which is nice. So when I pin this on, I'm actually going to pin my fabric down a little bit below that trim with my right sides together, so that when I flip this over and top stitch it down, I can catch that black inside and it'll be all encased. So I've gotten all of the sides that I want the piping on pinned, making sure that I've got a little bit of my purple sticking out and my black down lower, so that when it does get turned, it'll all get caught inside. So it's kind of what it's going to look like there. So I'm going to head over to my sewing machine and use my zipper foot to sew super close to the cording as I can, but still being on the trim. And then afterwards I will fold it over and top stitch it to catch this other side. So I'll show you a brief part of that, but I'm not going to show you the whole process because there's a lot of it. So let's get sewing. So this piping tape has a really loose weave in it, and it really kept shifting as I was sewing, only about an inch at the very end of it. So it wasn't too bad, but depending on if you do something like this or you just decide to regular hem it, just keep that in mind with the two different fabrics that you're using. So now that I've got it sewn on like this, I'm going to flip it this way. That's what it'll look from the right side, and from the underside, that's what it'll look like, as long as your black part from here hasn't shifted up. So that will get top stitched down afterwards with just the regular foot from the right side. But I'm just going to leave that for now so that I continue to use my zipper foot to put the piping on the rest of it. So I'll come back when all of that's done and show you the top stitching part. So for the front corners, I've just tucked one side underneath the other for the piping tape, and then it gives a nice corner for me to top stitch down. There's our top stitched edge and the underside. So I'm going to continue to do that to the part that's around the neck and the front, and then I'll come back and show you how I hem the sides. So I just wanted to show you guys as I come around that front corner area, I've got my pin holding the trim flat underneath. I'm just going to come to the corner, make sure that it's still flat. Pick it up with my needle in, pivot and turn. And we're all caught there. So I might have to go back and just stitch that little piece down with some hand stitching, but it's all caught from the top side. So for this little corner piece, there's a little flap that's open here from where I folded it. So I'm just going to put a couple tack spots in with just a hand sewing needle and thread that matches the purple, just to kind of hold that little spot down. So I'm just going to make a little knot at the edge here on the underside. And just sew this little part shut. Now it's nice and cleanly finished. I'm just going to repeat that on the other side, and then we can hem the edges. So now that I've got this all laid out, you guys can kind of see what it looks like, but I still do not have my sides hemmed at all. So I'm going to take it over to the serger and just serge the edge. If you don't have a serger, you could totally just double fold it and then top stitch it down. Or if you had more piping or trim, lace, whatever you're using, you could do that too. But for mine, I'm going to serge it. I'm going to stick the piping up on an angle like so, and then fold my black edge in like that, and I'll have a little bit more of a substantial hem there. Hopefully you can see that. That way I catch my piping all nicely inside of there. And then I'm just going to top stitch it on the, like where the serging is, and it'll be all complete. Okay guys, this is what it looks like now. I've got these sides all hemmed up and tucked in. You've seen all of this, and that stitched back. Everything's all nice and clean. So now I'm just going to grab those pieces that I cut off these sides for my belt, and I'm going to sew this together for my 2 strips. And then fold it in half, fold each edge in, and top stitch around the whole thing on either side and either edge. So I'm not going to film any of that because it's super simple, but I'll show you when it's all together on the dress form so you can kind of see what it looks like. So here is the final product, you guys. I've got the tie on there. As you can see, there's enough that comes down these sides, and your arms will come out here. You've got the tie belt option, and from the back looks like this. The purple trim on the edge and the neck. And if I take this off, and you've just got a nice big flowy overlay to layer with. It's perfect for fall. I know we're getting into winter, but spring's coming too, and it's just nice to kind of layer. So I hope you guys enjoyed this DIY scarf shawl type thing. I don't really know what they're called, to be honest, but I think it turned out really well, and it's super easy depending on, like I said earlier, how you finish your edges and all of that. But I think it's really pretty with this cording piping detail, and then with the added belt it just gives it a different silhouette. So if you guys make anything like this or have in the past, make sure to tag me on Instagram with the hashtag #BecauseI'mCrafty. I would love to see your makes. And make sure to check out the other DIYs that I'll be posting in the next little while, or any past ones that are great Christmas gift ideas. I do have a playlist for that as well, and I will link it at the end of the video. So if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and head over to Instagram as well to see what I'm doing over there. I hope you guys have a fabulous week and a fabulous holiday season. I'll see you next time, crafters. Bye!